Hey everybody, this is Mother Girth, and I just want to thank you so much for all of your support. It's been so meaningful, and I can't wait to share with you all of the stuff that we're doing for the show in August. I'm going to be documenting everything from picking outfits to learning choreography to trying on heels, but I also want this to be an opportunity for you to get to know me a little bit better. So normally what I tend to do for Father's Day is I make a really inappropriate dead dad joke. Like the one that I had planned for this year was I was just going to write my dad ghosted me. Get it? Cuz like he's dead and like a ghost. I didn't think it was that funny either, but I was going to post it anyway. Um, but I thought I would do something a little bit different and tell you a story. So a few weeks ago, my best friend and I were taking her dog Bessie out for a walk. And at one point, she had to take a shit, so we were just standing there. And I saw a father play catch with his young daughter. And at one point, he threw the ball so far, and she was so mad because she knew that she wasn't going to be able to catch it in time. And he responded with an apology. And then as she walked back, she begrudgingly accepted it. And the entire time I was just thinking, why did he apologize for something so benign? Like wasn't a big deal. And then it just immediately brought me back to the time when I was first learning to ride a bike. And my dad was out there teaching me. But basically he was screaming at me the entire time because I couldn't get it right on the first try. And this really paled in comparison to all the other shit that he pulled. But it really stood out to me because it was a time when I was still expecting an apology from him. All the other times after that, I knew that was never going to happen. And that kind of behavior was so normalized that I didn't really think anything of it afterwards. Looking back now, I realized that he never really learned how to apologize, and as a result, I never really learned how to forgive. I had such an adverse reaction to my childhood that I wanted to be nothing like what I saw. I wanted to be this kind, compassionate, nurturing person who really looked out for other people. And I wanted to make sure that I never was responsible for somebody's pain or for somebody feeling hurt. I never wanted to be a perpetrator. I kind of went a little extreme with that because I turned into being a people pleaser. Being a people pleaser basically means that you have no boundaries and that you will sacrifice a lot in order to be there for other people. You don't voice your concerns. You don't voice your opinions. You don't think of yourself in the process. And being a people pleaser for me has meant that I've had to forego authenticity. I've had to forego vulnerability because I'm not entirely myself. I'm a version that people want, not so much who I really am. And those are two essential components to having any healthy relationship. So I kept putting myself in these situations where I was inevitably going to suffer from being in an unhealthy relationship with somebody. And that's something that I was helping to contribute to. This really turned into anxiety for me because I was so concerned about not hurting anybody. If I ever felt like I did, whether or not it actually happened, I would just feel this overwhelming guilt. And I just didn't know how to manage it. And I was so frustrated and I just couldn't forgive myself. And I realized through a lot of work and a lot of thinking is that because I couldn't forgive my dad for, all of that stuff that happened in the past. Not too long ago, I was visiting my grandmother in the hospital, and she, anytime she thinks she's gonna die, she drops some kind of family secret, and this has happened about 20 times, and there's always been a brand new one. So it's kind of frightening when you think about how much she's been holding in all of these years. But the latest one was that she basically revealed that my dad didn't die from heart failure. He actually committed suicide by overdosing on her medications. And I had always thought that was the case because based on when it happened and what was going on, we hadn't seen him in a while, hashtag restraining orders. It's not a good hashtag. Having that be confirmed for me was hard because it challenged the single story that I had of my dad. I vilified him. I made him into a monster. And I did that because it made it easier to not forgive him. Now I'm seeing somebody who's far more complicated, who's suffering, who had his own demons, who tried to fight them but couldn't. That is somebody who's easier to forgive. That is somebody who's easier to have sympathy for, and that really was him. So I'm faced with this truth, and I realize that I have to, for him and for me, to forgive. And knowing that now, if I'm able to forgive him, then I'm going to be able to forgive myself for the mistakes that I make. And I'm going to allow myself to be a little bit more human. And I mean, always try to make the right decision, make the most appropriate decision, but not to such an extreme that I, have difficulty going through, everyday life because I'm so afraid of what I'm going to say. And so it really put things into perspective for me. So I really thought about, okay, so how am I going to, forgive this guy? All I could think of was like, I just need Iyanla, I need Oprah, I need the entire OWN network here to help me through this process right now. So then I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to have a really cinematic moment. I'm going to go to his grave and, pour my heart out or whatever. And then I realized I didn't know where it was. And I'm pretty sure he was cremated. So I guess I could find an urn and talk to it, but that just seemed a little bit weird to me. So I just sort of took some time by myself and really thought about forgiveness and tried to figure out first what forgiveness looked like, sounded like, felt like, because I had no concept or understanding of that to begin with. And then I tried to apply that to this situation. It was quite a bit of a reprieve, I have to say, because it allowed me to be okay with the fact that I'm going to make mistakes at some point, and that's okay. What I can't forgive him for is for these eyebrows that basically are so hard to manage. I can't forgive him for gambling a lot of that money, and now I had to work my ass off, but all I ended up with was an apartment with the ugliest fucking cabinets that you see behind me right now. I can't forgive him for his height because I'm only 5'6", 5'7" online in my dating site profile. Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, and I have to live in authenticity, and I have to live in vulnerability if I'm gonna make it through. That has been such an important lesson for me. So I don't know what my advice is, other than for me, forgiveness is a process and something I have to continue to work towards. And so I just really wanted to end this video just by saying, and I don't think I've said this in a long time, maybe ever. And so I just wanted to say, Dad, happy Father's Day. I forgive you, and I'm sorry, and I miss you.